to say thank you for hitting play on this episode of Politics Not Included. I have just one thing to ask of you as you listen to this conversation. The goal of this show is to start bringing the humanity back to politics. And in order to do that, I need you to listen to this person's perspective with an open mind. This season, we're going to hear from candidates on both sides of the party aisle, as well as independent candidates. And I'm hoping that through these conversations, you'll get to know the people behind the campaigns and get to know the people that will appear on your ballot in August and again in November. And if you have something that you feel like you want to say that you wouldn't say if you were sitting in this room with us, I'm going to ask you to keep it out of the comments. We're here to genuinely get to understand somebody's journey and perspective. In order to accomplish the goal of this podcast, we need to go into this with an open mind and avoid attacking one another. Now, let's get this show started, and I'm excited to introduce you to the person that you'll get to know a little bit better today. Just one note before we get started with today's episode. All candidates have been invited to appear as a guest on Politics Not Included. On this episode of Politics Not Included, I'm joined today by Stacy Rogers, who is one of the Republican candidates for governor in the 2026 election cycle. Stacy Rogers, welcome to Politics Not Included.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. I know you're very busy. Today alone, you've come from Wichita, you're in Manhattan, and you're going to Leavenworth later, right?
Yes.
So you're very busy all over the state. I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Thank you.
And speaking of traveling, you're building this campaign literally one town at a time.
Yeah.
I've seen your travel schedule. You're county to county, driving all over the state. What's the most exciting part for you of traveling the state and getting to build your campaign?
I think the most exciting thing is just getting to visit with people. And as I go, I've been doing this for over a year. So I was the first candidate to announce back in November of 24. And I'd already been traveling some at that point, but I really kicked it off after November and just started traveling the state. So I traveled the whole time, all last year. And then in January, I decided to start a county by county tour and visit all 105 counties between January and July. And when I go into a county, I try to get to as many towns as I can in a day or two. And we just have amazing people in the state. And we have some amazing towns that just, people should go visit. And so I try to highlight that, when I'm traveling and just meeting different business owners and different people in the community. That's been the best part for sure.
Do you know about how many miles you've put on your car thus far?
I think I'm at about 65,000, but I have to say I had taken off kind of near the holidays and stayed closer to home, so I didn't put quite as many miles. I'm estimating that I'll put about 120,000 total by the end of July. Yeah.
So your car deserves a credit for part of the campaign too.
Yeah.
And so you've previously been a city council member, but this is the next step up in terms of running. You're running for governor. Right. At what point did you start thinking, maybe I should be leading at this level, and why governor specifically?
Well, one of the things, when I started to talk with people, I was really frustrated with things that were happening in the state, just all the vetoes that were happening, all the overturning of vetoes that were happening, all the things that I was seeing go on in our legislature, that there were decisions being made that I didn't feel were being made in the best interest of the people. So I started asking the people around me. I happened to be at the Kansas State Fair with my businesses in September of 23. So this is not something that I just came up with, last year and said, hey, let's do this. But I started asking people what they thought, and they overwhelmingly, all I heard was, nobody listens to us. Our voice doesn't matter. Nobody cares about us. We don't trust the people we've elected. They're not working for us. And I thought, well, I care. So maybe I should do this, And it's been, when I started to look into it, a lot of people said, oh, you should run for something else and work your way up, And I said, no, my whole thing is I don't want to be a career politician. I see a problem. And as an entrepreneur, when an entrepreneur sees a problem or sees a gap, their response is, how do I fill that gap? Or how do I come up with the solution to this issue? And that's how businesses are created. So I said, well, I see this problem. I don't want to make a career out of this. I want to help in this area. But if I don't like career politicians and how they arrive at where they're at, which is not working for the people ultimately, then I can't start at a lower level, because by the time I would work my way up, that's exactly what I would be as well. Mm-hmm. So I said, this is the position that I need to go for, and that's what we're doing. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to, sorry, one moment. Little technical difficulties. Okay. And so you mentioned being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. You've owned several businesses.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit about what those are, and also in running for governor, I've seen your travel schedule and how you're visiting different parts of the state. So what do you feel like you've had to set aside for your own personal career and the businesses that you've owned in order to really go for this and make a run for governor?
Sure. So prior to running for governor, I actually ran 6 businesses, but I'll talk about the 2 that I still run today actively. And one of them is I just sold the property that one of my businesses sat on, which was Eberly Farm out of Wichita, which was probably the longest running event venue in the state, as far as I can tell. And I kept the business, but I sold the property to a school it's a private school that's going to focus on agriculture and horticulture. And I thought, man, we're an agriculture state, so it made sense to have something that was educating children and in agriculture. So that was a win-win for me. So I still retain the business so I can do mobile event services. I just don't have time for that really right now. But my other business is called Kids Closet Consignment Sales. And there's actually one that runs a sale here in Manhattan and Lawrence, and it's online. And so they're pop-ups that happen, and there's an online component as well that somebody can take part in. But I own that. I run the one in Wichita, and I own the company nationwide. We're actually the 3rd largest pop-up consignment sales in the country. And so I have 28 franchises across the United States. So those are the 2 main businesses that I currently run. I had to step back from a lot of things. I gave up a leadership position with Mary Kay Cosmetics. I'd been with them for 11 years now, and I'm still with them, but I stepped back from that leadership position because I knew that going into this, I would not be able to be the leader that I needed to be for those ladies and men that I had, on my team. And so I turned that back over, but that was a good chunk of income. I gave up quite a bit that financially hurt the family. And I gave back a car and all the things that go along with that. So I would say that I've given up about 90% of my personal income in order to do this. But that's a sacrifice that I was willing to take because this is so important. And having good leadership and having the right leadership in that position is going to be very important to lead this state forward. So
it does sound, especially owning a franchise with different areas across the state, that the logistics and planning, and you have really diverse background in running businesses. So it sounds like that will kind of set you up.
Yeah. And so what I do with Kids Closet is I am the owner of the entire company, so I oversee other owners of their individual businesses. So they purchase franchises to run their own business. But yeah, so I train them, do all that. So
it's a really, really cool model.
Yeah.
And so that kind of covers the career side and also your personal, your family's finances behind it. But more from a personal side regarding friendships, and you have kids, and we'll kind of touch on them in a little bit. But what do you feel like from a personal standpoint, pursuing this, being gone all the time, what are some of the things that you've had to say no to say yes and really commit to this?
Well, I think I was at a point in my life where all my kids are grown. They're all out of the house. So I didn't have to set aside a lot there personally. They're all very productive citizens, and I'm very proud of all of them. And so, other than saying no to more things that I would have done hobby-wise or with friends, those are the kind of things I've had to say, well, maybe I don't quite have time for that at this moment. But business-wise, I have a great team who's been able to step in and take care of a lot of things for me. So it's been an easier transition than I thought it was going to be. Now, my staff might say differently. I'm not sure, but they're all really good people and have supported me well. So
it sounds like running for governor is not your hobby.
Yeah. Yes.
And actually, since we're talking about them a little bit, would you mind telling us a little bit about your kids and just
so I have three boys. They are 32, 27, and 22. And my youngest just got married this past year, which was fantastic. And I don't have any grandkids yet, so that I don't have to worry about the what everybody says, grandkids are better than your own kids.
That's what my mom would say about our kids.
Yeah. So I don't have to worry about that yet. But they all have their own careers. I have one that's a CPA, one that is a diesel mechanic. My middle son he actually has autism, and he has had the same job since he was 18 years old, working for a retail company. And I'm very proud that not many people can say they've had the same job for, almost 10 years. So
yeah, it's commitment.
Yeah.
In terms of running, were there any conversations that you had to have with them about deciding to run and really? Because once you put your name in the hat, you're jumping in.
Yeah, I'm by far the most extroverted person in my family. So, the conversations were, why? Why would you want to be in front of that many people? And I said, well, that doesn't bother me. It would bother them more, and I kind of keep them out of the spotlight as much as possible. They're living their own lives and doing their own thing anyway, so it's not like I'm taking smaller children with me on the campaign trail. Every once in a while, I do have my youngest son and my daughter-in-law. They'll accompany me to things and seem to somewhat enjoy it anyway. So, but yeah, they've known this about me their entire life, because they've always seen me in business, and I've always had to be in front of cameras and in front of a lot of people. And so this wasn't something that was maybe a big surprise for them, but they said, well, that's a lot more people, Mom. I said, that's okay. We'll be fine.
And so speaking of, being in front of people and you have the attention of the state now, I've seen articles and opinions and social media posts, and I think that you're the right person to answer this with your background being an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. But there are some people that have a really strong opinion that in order to do the job of the governor in particular, that you have to have prior legislative experience and your campaign has to have X amount of money to be considered relevant. What's your perspective on that take?
Well, from the position of legislative experience, I don't think that is correct. The governor position is an administrative position. So it's far more important that someone in that position understands how to manage people and manage departments, understand budgets. Those are really way more important than understanding how to run a bill, because governors don't run bills. So what I've said all along, and I've been, educated by fire hose for the past 2 years, is I can't possibly learn everything and I can't possibly hold it all into my brain, but I'm wise enough to know that I need to surround myself with the people that have the knowledge and the wisdom to help me and assist me and either educate me or be the person that I turn to for that expertise. And I've found a lot of those people along the way. So, and I think what was the other part of your question?
The campaign
the
finances.
Campaign finance. Oh, yes. So I actually, when I started this, I had a conversation with someone and they were telling me all the reasons basically why I couldn't do it. And they were trying to be discouraging. And I had a notepad beside me and I had written notes out previous to this conversation of all the things I needed to do, all the things I needed to focus on, all the things I needed to think about. And during this conversation, they started to go down this list of things, and I'm looking at my pad of paper, checking off the things that I had independently written down with no guidance whatsoever. And at the end of the phone call, I don't think this person was very happy. I said, thank you for affirming what I'm supposed to be doing, because everything you just said, I already had on my list. So going forward, I know being the grassroots candidate, that comes with different metrics and different hurdles. And unfortunately, I was approached last year sometime and was told, well, the party is going to make rules because we only want serious candidates. And at this point, I was probably 8 months into the traveling and circulating around the state, and had already been called the hardest working candidate in this race. And I said, so the measure of whether someone is a serious candidate is money, because arguably my work stands on its own. I'm clearly a serious candidate by what I'm out doing, And they didn't really have a response for me, but that's really what it's boiled down to, is you're not a serious candidate unless you have a lot of money. And I have a problem with that statement because it keeps good servant leaders from ever approaching the possibility of running for something because they don't feel like they're qualified because of money. And I think that's where we've gotten into trouble in this state, is saying that money is the thing that determines that, when in fact your level of service and your commitment to that should be how we're measuring. And so I've fought that, and my supporters are very much on my side. As I travel through this state, I hear a lot more support in, we're glad you don't have millions of dollars. They can relate to me because I'm a real person, a normal, everyday person that doesn't just pad their campaign account with a lot of money to make it look like they've got, support. I don't think that dollars indicate support. And I'm very proud of my campaign finance because every single dollar in that is from a real supporter of this campaign. And I think that matters. So yeah, I don't agree with, and I plan on it. I plan on proving that you don't need millions of dollars in order to be successful. And I think that will revolutionize, quite frankly, the campaign process in general, because it will open the door for so many other people to realize, hey, maybe I can do this too. And that's, and I see that already. I actually see that around the state, and I'm actually seeing it across the country, where a lot of grassroots candidates are getting into races and, they're being told they can't do this, they can't succeed, and they are. And, I'm seeing that in my own campaign of a lot of success. And I said this at one point, Others measure their success in dollars, and I measure my success in the hours that people donate their time, or the phone calls of support, or the people that I'm interacting with, and that you can't put a price on. That is priceless. And so I will argue that all day long.
Just a really quick interruption from the conversation that I hope you're enjoying. If you want to hear more of these conversations in the future, please consider hitting the follow or subscribe button in whatever platform you are listening or watching this episode. Just that one click of the button really helps us expand and grow the show. Thank you.
Speaking of the party creating rules,
Yeah.
you were not involved in the Kansas GOP gubernatorial debate.
Mm-hmm.
What went into making that decision to not participate in that for you?
Yeah, so when I was approached about these rules that were going to be made, I said, I'll wait and see what the rules are. And ultimately, it was not the money that was the deciding factor of why I didn't sign that contract. It was all of the other rules that went with it. And some of those were, basically, it was a dictation of dictating the who, what, when, where, and how I could run my campaign, even outside of that debate. And I said, well, that's not a way for the people of this state to get their questions answered. Inside of the debate, the questions were also controlled. And so you might have a question that didn't get asked, and you're not really able to find out the answer. And so I just felt like this was not the right way to go about this. I wanted to have the freedom to speak. And I've been invited many places and been encouraged by many different groups who said, we are glad you did not sign that, and we want to have you come speak. And so that really has resonated with a lot of people. I think that, when the debate happened, there was a post out on the Republican page, and 415 comments, the majority of them were upset that I was not participating. And I did a rebuttal video to the debate, kind of giving my answers to the questions, and it actually got more views than the debate itself. And so I'm okay with that. That was fine. I wanted people to still hear the answers to the questions, but be able to have control of that to make sure that if somebody has a follow-up question, I'll answer it for them as well. And there isn't necessarily that opportunity in that way. Outside of the debate, there was a provision in there that dictated what a debate would consist of when two candidates were in the same space and how long they could be talking about a particular topic. Mm-hmm. And that is where it limited, again, outside of the debate, it would limit to stump speeches. I mean, that's basically what it boiled down to. So 5-10 minutes of talking, where when I go out, I do all of my events town hall style, and I just give a brief intro of myself, and then I say, what are your questions? Because I want to talk about what they're interested in, not what I think they're interested in. And I've proven that several times because I've walked into rooms thinking, this group of people is going to be interested in this topic. And we talked about a completely different topic for an hour. Mm-hmm. And had I went in there with that predisposed mindset of this is what we're going to talk about and this is what I'm going to talk about, they would have left without their questions being answered. And I think that's far more important than what I want to say.
Yeah. So the participating in the debate comes with other stipulations outside of that and how you can interact too.
Right. And they at every opportunity, they try to make it about the money. There was a $10,000 required donation, which is there's no other way to look at it. It is pay to play. And I'm very much against that. That goes against everything I believe is right about a campaign. If someone fulfills the state requirements to be on that ballot, their voice should be heard, period. And at this point, I'm the only one who has fulfilled those state requirements. So doing a debate in January when no one else has filed except for myself is actually wasting the voters' time and energy, because some of these people won't be there in the primary. They won't make it to that filing date because governor is the only dual position in the state. You have to have a lieutenant in order to finish the filing process and be on the ballot. So some of these candidates won't be there. And we've listened to them for no reason whatsoever. So I struggle with that. I don't think there should be a debate until after the filing date, and then everyone who has filed should be invited.
And
So,
I'd like to come back to
Yeah.
the engagement. I know you use social media a lot and you're out doing talks and that stuff, and we'll
Yeah.
kind of come back to that in a moment. But I do want to get your perspective on, it seems like even after the debate and in media, even still, your name is left out of a lot of media articles, social media posts, and those types of things. So one, why do you think that as we're recording this right now, you were the only person that is officially filed? So if we had to go to the polls today, you would be the only person we can actually vote for. Why do you think that your name is left out of conversations? And like, does that kind of fuel you at the end of the day? Like, how do you take that?
Whether I'm in business or in this field, I've always said this: when you tell me no, I'm going to find the way to do it anyways, and maybe twice, just to show you that I can. That does in fact fuel me. So it was, I was told no very early on, multiple times, that there's no possible way you could do this. There's no possible way you could win. You're never going to get out a single digit name recognition. Last fall, I had about a 20% name recognition in the state. I'm estimating, because I don't trust polls that much, I'm estimating it's actually closer to about 30, which would put me smack dab in the middle of all of those career politicians that have been around for 20 years. So to answer your question, it's because they don't want my name heard, because they understand what's happening and that I am a threat to what they have going on. I'm a threat to the career politicians, the games that have been played for too long with the people of the state. And quite frankly, if it should make people sit up and take notice when my name is left out as the only filed candidate, because if I was not a threat, they would have no problem putting my name on everything. Because you don't care about somebody that doesn't matter, that is irrelevant. They're not going to make a difference in the outcome. So by not including my name is actually very telling to the fact that they don't want to draw any more attention to me, because I'm doing a fair job of it all on my own. And I'm okay with that, because it really makes everyone who decides not to include me look bad. and that's unfortunate for them. And it has woken some people up to realize they probably should include me. Like I've done some TV interviews. I have some good contacts that will include me and make sure that I'm getting heard as much as they can possibly push it with their networks. But at the end of the day, what I think has given me the name recognition that I have is social media. I get millions of views a month across all my social media platforms. I do not pay for a single thing. That is organic, and that's very important. And I know since you reach a lot younger group, they're going to understand this more than some of the other people I talk to. But organic growth and organic viewership is huge. And, I have just a few thousand people following my political page, and I get we're very close to about 800,000 views a month just on that one page. And what that tells me is there's a lot of very frustrated people in this state looking for something different. And I even checked, because I want to know if what I'm actually putting out there is accurate, because I see a lot of things from other candidates that are not. They're manipulating data. They're trying to spin it to make it sound like they're doing better than they are. And when I put something out there, I want to know that I can back it up and say, no, this is really not supposed to be happening. I shouldn't be having a few thousand followers and 800,000 views. So I checked with one of my friends that's in a different business, and they have 25,000 followers. And I said, can you please tell me what your viewership a month is? And they said 700,000. And I said, okay, that's all I needed to hear. And so that also drives me, because when I know that people are viewing what I'm putting out there, I want to make sure that I'm providing stuff for them to engage with and see, so that they can get to know me. And for that, I also keep my personal Facebook page open. A lot of electeds and career and politicians and candidates, they'll lock their pages down so that you can't see what's going on in their personal life. I don't have anything to hide, and I'm not worried about anything. Do I maybe not post as many personal things as I once did? Sure, I want to protect the privacy of my family, but I also want people to feel like they know me, that I'm approachable, that they can interact with me, and that I'm going to answer them. And so I answer every message personally. If you are reaching out to me, I want to hear from you directly, and I want to answer you directly. And I have not allowed my media team to take that over. They've tried a couple times, and I've said, no, no, thank you. I've got this. And, I think that when we look at what else I've been doing, which is the boots on the ground side of things, between social media and boots on the ground, that is what has moved this forward so well, and how I've built it so quickly. It just doesn't, I've heard numbers thrown out there. It should take 5 years to build, but I've been in network marketing for a really long time. And so I utilized the skills that I already had and put them to use in this aspect. So, yeah.
And in using social media, you mentioned before that that's kind of one of the platforms that you reach to allow people to offer their perspective, their opinions, and I follow your page and see that you ask questions like, what do you think on this topic? And it sounds like you do that when you're speaking in person too. So it seems like you are trying to gauge perspectives on things.
Right.
As a part of that, I think that also opens you up a little bit to maybe take in some punches that you may not if you just said, this is my opinion and this is what I think. Yeah. And so you're kind of opening the conversation and opening yourself up to that. How do you take posts on social media that, instead of contributing to the conversation or just kind of attacking, or, I've seen some of the comments in your comment section. Some of them are not kind, whereas others are really genuinely trying to engage with you. Yeah. How do you balance that using social media as a platform?
So I've got a few that are very vocal on my page that are not kind, but my followers have really taken up the gauntlet of handling a lot of that for me. And I've actually received messages to say, we've got this, don't worry about it. Because sometimes it's the same thing over and over, even though I've answered the question, and they just don't like my answer. Now, when I post questions out there, I've had people, kind of come at me and say, why aren't you telling your perspective? And I explain, because I want to hear from the people of this state. I'm just one opinion and one thought process. We have 2.9 million people in this state, and if I don't take that into account, I'm not doing a fair job. So I do have my opinions, of course, but I want to hear what other people feel as well, what is affecting their life and how it might change. So as far as social media, I will engage as much as possible. I actually had, and I'll tell this story because it's a fun one. I actually had a lady who is definitely not a fan tag me one day and just start coming at me with, MAGA and stuff like that, which I really try to step away from that conversation. I try to stay away from federal topics because that's not my focus. My focus is Kansas and the people here. And so I usually try to redirect conversations because I don't want to get into those when we have so many issues right here in our own backyard. And so she was coming at me on that, but she was saying some other things, and she had tagged me in the post, and I said, hey, could we actually have a conversation? Because it sounds like we might agree on a couple things, but I would like to talk with you. And this went on for an entire evening of people bashing me on her post and just being very hateful. And I would try to like respond and ask them questions and talk with them. And at the end of the day, she was, no, I'm not going to talk with you. And I said, that's fine. That's totally your choice. But she ended up getting like the most views she's ever had on her page. And I said, well, you're welcome for that. That's because I was engaging on it and I get all these views over here. And recently she actually reached out to me. She also watched the things that happened around the debate and how that transpired and what occurred. And she sent me an email and she said, you know what? I'm sorry. I would like to have that conversation now because, and she said, I actually made a TikTok video that told people that if they are Republican, they need to be voting for you. And because she said, I truly do feel like you're trying to do the right thing for people. And that was evident by what occurred to you in that scenario. So those are the conversations I love to have. So I never know, and this goes out to when I'm actually traveling, I don't know when I walk into somewhere, these are not scheduled events that I'm walking into. I'm walking into businesses, I'm walking into restaurants, I'm walking into bars. I will go in, where do you find the most frustrated Kansans? 5 o'clock at a bar, after they get off work, trying to put food on their family's table. And they don't mess around. They'll tell you exactly what they think and how it is. And I want to hear that. But I don't know when I'm walking into that conversation whether I'm going to be encountering a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a libertarian. I'm just there to talk to a Kansan. And so I think that's very important to understand that I don't avoid those conversations. Some of them have been really hard. Mm-hmm. And some of them have been mean. And that's just what comes with it. And I tend to operate under 3 rules. And I say we can have this conversation or continue this conversation if we can talk in facts, be respectful, and keep it to Kansas. And those are my only 3 rules. And, I've had to stop a couple conversations and say, we really can't continue this because we can't get anywhere. But for the most part, people will respect those rules and we can sit down and talk about things that matter to them. And even if we don't agree at the end of that, that's okay. And so I do that online as well. And I do try to engage with people. But when they start name calling or just being hateful to be hateful, I disengage from that and just say, well, maybe another time. Maybe another time.
Is there anything that you wish the public knew? Like, you've been doing this for months. It sounds like years you've been doing this. Is there anything that you wish the public kind of understood from sitting in your seat, like before commenting or engaging and stuff like that? Like, is there anything that you wish that people had perspective on, or like you're doing something that very few people ever do. Yeah. You have a very insider's perspective on that, and it's kind of hard to relate to at times. Do you have anything that you wish?
So from a personal or what I'm seeing in the political world, there's a couple different thought processes. I think that not everything is as it seems. And that's a big lesson when you enter from where I did, because, as you said in the beginning, I was a council member, but that was when my kids were younger and my kids are grown now. So I had not been engaged in politics as far as the insider side of that for many years. And so stepping back into that, I was very blessed to have groups of people come around me and guide me correctly, because I could have went in a different direction had the wrong people been there to influence me. And I think that that's something that's very important. If anyone is thinking about getting into politics and running for an office, they need to guard who they allow in that circle and make sure that use some discernment, because it is a minefield of tricks and things out there that And so I had to navigate that a lot on my own, but I did have some good people that came and said, wait, you need to know this really quick, and helped me along the way. Now, personally, I think that, I think the biggest thing you can remember about a political candidate is that we are people.
Yeah.
We live in the real world. I think sometimes people are surprised when they see me shopping at Dillon's, or, just eating at a fast food restaurant or something, which I don't do that very often. But, if I'm out and about, they're surprised just to see me shopping for my own clothes, or I actually had a representative who came into my pop-up sale. He was a shopper, had been a longtime customer, and I'm running the checkout, checking people and out at this sale in the middle of running for office. And I get a text message and he says, "Are you checking people out at this sale?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm the owner. I'm running the sale. So this is part of my job." And he says, that is just strange. So even from that representative's perspective of the job that he already holds, what I'm doing is not common, I think, commonly seen. But it is normal. I mean, people still have to manage their lives and go do all the normal things. We get up in the morning and go to the bathroom and put our clothes on, take a shower,
We have to eat.
We have to eat, those things don't change when just because you're running for an office. And so I think some of the things we've lost in this country is realizing the human side of people in general, not just in politics, but and I've talked about this before. I think that sometimes there are issues that are used to keep us fighting each other from different sides, to keep us distracted from other things that are going on. And I with the things that are going on in our world right now, I think we're seeing some of those things. I don't talk about federal stuff very much, but it's hard not to, because it's so in your face every single day. And I often wonder, what are we being distracted from that's going on elsewhere? And that's a perspective that I think I share with a lot of people nowadays, because there's a lot of chaos in in our world in general. And so that's something that I think, bringing back the humanity, and it's one of the reasons why I try to engage with people where they're at and sit down and talk with them, because at the end of the day, they're a human, I'm a human. We're all just trying to navigate this world. Somebody said this to me a while back, and I think it's a good point, way before I was running, but I've never been here before, on this day, in this time, at this age, and tomorrow I will have never been there either. And so we're all just we've never done any of this before. We're all just trying to navigate through life. So I think that deserves a little bit of grace on all sides. So, yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, and especially I have this belief, and maybe it's naive, but that if we could get people to sit down that have really polarizing views and just actually talk through it and maybe reconnect with each other, which is kind of the purpose of this podcast and our organization, that maybe there is a solution that we could get to and actually talk through things and remember that we are all just people and we're living our lives and we're doing the best that we can. And I love that I've never been here today. Tomorrow will be something I'm facing that's completely new, and we're just all trying to figure it out as we go.
Well, and when I sit down with people that have opposing views, I tell them, or I've had people who have said, we're not registered for the party you're in, but we'd like to be able to vote for you in the primary. We're going to switch parties or whatever. And I always start that conversation with, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And if you want to do that, that's great. But I also need you to understand that we're not going to agree on everything. And that's okay. Disagreement is not a bad thing. Disagreement is actually where we, not only can we grow, from listening to someone who does not agree with us. But at a minimum, we can gain an understanding of how that person has arrived at that point in their life and what experiences they've carried with them, what has shaped them into the person that they are today. And I think that brings automatically some grace, because we've all had our individual experiences that shape who we are as people and have shaped how we've arrived at the views that we're at. So, yeah.
And how would you say that running for governor has changed? And obviously, it has changed your day to day.
Yeah.
But I've heard interviews and other people say that have run for high profile elections that regardless of the outcome, running for X race changed my life.
Yeah.
How would you say that running for governor has changed your life? That could be from just how people interact with you in public and their recognition.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens, I think that it will shift a little bit of your perspective and your experiences.
Yeah. So locally, which is, after all this is over in 4 or 8 years or whatever happens, locally, I was already fairly well known in my community. So I was used to always seeing someone that recognized. So that part hasn't really affected me that much. It's fun when I go out in the state and somebody says, I already know about you. And I say, it's great to find somebody in the wild. No, because that's not normal for me. And, but as far as how it's changed me, I think it's just given me a deeper love for this state. I'm born and raised here. I have family from all over the state. It's not that the state was unknown to me, but I'm discovering more things about this state that I didn't know. And so I think it's going to change, how I view our state even more. And that is only a deeper love for it. But personally, I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably the most extroverted person I know. So I don't know that it's going to change anything on that, in that aspect. I think through this, maybe I've protected people around me a little bit more, and wanted to make sure that they're safe than I really had to think about before. But as far as me personally, I don't have anything that I've really changed or, but except for, like I want to make sure my family's okay and they're taken care of. So
family first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of regardless of outcome, I mean, you're spending years, months running this campaign, and ultimately the decision gets made in one night, and it's a firm decision. You live with that moving forward. How do you handle pouring so much of yourself into something that you really don't have control of, and you get an answer one evening and you have to move forward with that?
Yeah. I don't have control over it. You're absolutely right. And I've known that from the beginning. So whatever the decision is on that night, of course, will I be sad if I don't make it through the primary? I think that's human. That's normal. However, I have said this many times, with this, it's a path, and I'm being obedient to the path. A lot of times people will say, well, God told me to be governor, and I've said, no, God has told me to follow this path. This is what, and I've been told that's a very unique perspective. Not a lot of people say that. And I am a woman of faith, and so that is something that plays into it. But what I say is, whatever I'm doing on this path, the end goal is that seat. Okay, and then to make changes for the state, for the people. But there are things along this path, and I've already seen the fruit of that, where I've been able to connect people that needed to help each other. I've been able to, in one instance, I got a family to speak to each other again, which that's like a crowning jewel in this whole thing, is to, if I helped reunite a family, I'll take that with me for the rest of my life. So at the end of the day, knowing because of who I am as a person and how hard I work and how much I do pour into it, I won't have any regrets because I know I will have done absolutely everything I could to reach the goal. And the people that I've met along the way and the things that I've been able to do along the way, I will sleep well for the rest of my life. I won't be mad over that because ultimately it is the will of the people, but I'll have the fruit of the labor of the journey, and that's pretty awesome. So
it's more of the experience is important to you than I mean, obviously the outcome matters,
right?
but
the outcome
you're
matters.
Finding peace and fulfillment in the journey.
I've walked in perfect peace through this entire process, and a lot of times people say you're very brave or you're crazy or why are you doing this? But the truth is, I don't feel brave. I just know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing at this time. And so I've just walked in complete peace this whole process. I've not been anxious. I've not been upset. I've not been concerned. I just know that I'm where I'm supposed to be, following this path. So,
and we can't finish this conversation without talking about your lieutenant governor pick.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned earlier, you have officially filed, which means that you do have a lieutenant governor pick.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about Michael Smith and how you know each other and why he was your pick?
So I have been looking and interviewing candidates for this almost since the beginning. And I have turned down multiple. Some it just wasn't the right time or the right place for them. But ultimately, I knew I had to find someone that was truly for the people. They understood what I was doing, that this wasn't about a career for them either. This wasn't about a line on a resume. This wasn't about what was in it for them, but they truly want to serve. And when I met Michael Smith, which has just honestly been just a few months ago, I'd heard wonderful things about him beforehand. And so I said, well, okay, I'll sit down and talk with him. And his background alone adds so much value to the team. He has 40 plus years in civil service and in service to the community. He was chief of police. He was a mayor, and he was mayor of the year. He was president of the Mayor's Association. He is currently a sitting county commissioner. And so he brings a lot of experience in a lot of different areas that lend well to the conversations that we're having about how we fix things in the state, because he's got the viewpoint of what it looks like at those local levels as well. How does state decisions affect real people? And he's kind of the, you'd notice I'm a redhead. I'm a little fiery at times, and I'm pretty passionate at times. He is the peacemaker. He smooths things out, and that was a good balance for me as well. I needed someone who would just be a calming effect over the whole process. So that's the reason he agrees with why I'm running, why we're doing this, what we're working for the people of this state, and that was a big plus. So yeah. So
it sounds nice to know what your own strengths are and finding somebody that complements those things.
Yeah.
And do you plan to use him, I assume, then as sounding board for a lot of things? And
I already do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And we will wrap things up here with the last 3 questions that I will ask every guest this season. The first is, if the race were to end tomorrow, what would you be most proud of just by stepping into the race?
Yeah. I would be most proud of all of the the relationships that I've built through this time, I have made some of the most amazing friends along this journey. And then, like I said before, being able to connect people from across the state that didn't know about each other, that need each other for one reason or another, to help each other. That's what this is about, really. It's about bringing the people of our state together. We can't keep doing this alone. And I feel like a lot of people feel like they're just out there all by themselves. We have to come together and work together as a team to get things going in the right direction. So if it all ended tomorrow, I've said this before, I will toddle off back into the sunset and go run my businesses and know that I did absolutely everything that I could. I sleep well for the rest of my life, but I'm coming out of this with so many new friendships and people that will be with me for the rest of my life. And I'm very thankful for that. Yeah.
And the next question is, when people hear your name 5 years from now, what do you hope they associate it with?
Well, I hope that they don't. No, and what I mean by that is I hope that I'm not remembered for what I did, but that it's not about me. It's about the people of this state and what needs to be accomplished for them. So I hope that what they remember is how, and they see how better their life is, how we've improved things. But I don't need recognition. I don't need to be remembered for that. I just need things to change for the better. And so I don't really want that.
Don't bring it up.
It's not about me. It's about the people. It truly is. So, yeah.
And last question, why is voting important to you? And what would you say to somebody that's not planning to vote in August?
Oh, so that's where your voice is the most heard. And so, and I talk to people who are maybe registered independent, that if you wait until the general, you've already lost your voice. Your decision's already been made for you. And, you know, we have an apathy problem in this state. And the apathy problem comes from what I talked about in the beginning of people don't feel like their vote matters, their voice matters, no one's listening to them. But when we have, I'll give Johnson County as an example, when we have 126,000 people who believe that their vote doesn't matter, that can change an election. Mm-hmm. So it is important to get out and use that. And I've also encountered people who said, well, I don't have anything to do with politics. Politics, I stay out of it. I say, you can't. Politics, whether you engage in it or not, affects every single thing in your life. And so you do need to be involved in it. You need to exercise your voice, and your voice is that voting process. So I know you reach a lot of younger people, and what I would say to the younger people is, this is your future. This is not about my future. My kids are grown. This is about my kids' future. This is about my grandkids' future. And that's why they need to get out and vote, because they need to make sure that their voice is being heard correctly. You know, I've heard this said, I think it's kind of mean to say it this way, but if you don't vote, then don't gripe about things. And I don't use that very often. I don't think that that's a nice way to say it. Of course, the language is usually different from what I just said as well, but it's kind of the truth. If you're not exercising your voice, you don't have the ability to complain when things don't go well, when you had a choice to use your voice before. So I just think it's really, really important to get out and exercise it. And your vote matters. It does count.
Well, thank you
So,
so much for joining us
yeah.
today, and I will link some of your social
Okay.
media pages in the
Yeah.
show notes, but I really
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thanks
you
for
so much for
coming on
having
the
me.
show.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed and learned something from this conversation. Politics Not Included is hosted by the Transparent Campaign Initiative. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and if you did enjoy this show and want to see this organization continue to grow, we would really appreciate if you would consider making a donation or follow us on our social media pages. That support helps us grow as well. The links are in the show notes. Thank you.